Finally, there's some art on the wall. What do you think of my picture in the background? It was the first thing that I put on the wall in this room, and I think it fits in perfectly with what we do here. So, say hello to our new fixture in this room. I'm gonna have to give her a name sometime. But last time we were together, we were taking a look at the Boomer Bin CVG kit and the Shroom Tech all-in-one grow kit. I just took a look at those last night. They're not quite ready yet. They're going on about 6, 7 days after inoculation right now. The previous video got a little bit delayed between the video and inoculation. So we are on day 6, day 7 of inoculation. I didn't see anything. I only took a quick peek. You're supposed to keep them in the dark, but I didn't see anything. Normally, you'll start to see growth. Sometimes it's be within a couple days, like within the first 2, 3, 4 days, or it can take up to a week, 7 to 10 days. But hopefully, we will get something here very, very soon by the time that we do our next live event. Hopefully, not too far in the future. I'm gonna try to do one of these a week, so hopefully next week we can get to that. Um, Something that I didn't think of when we were inoculating during the last video, for the Shroom Tech all-in-one grow kit in particular, that substrate bag, their proprietary mix, that can take a lot of liquid culture. So when I injected it, I only injected it with probably the 2.5 to 5 cc's that they recommend. But I think I remember seeing somewhere else that you can actually put somewhere else on North Sport's website that you can actually inject those bags with a little bit more liquid culture. Don't quote me on that. I don't want to misquote them. But in hindsight, and shoot, I don't have that spore booster with me. I meant to get it out. In hindsight, before inoculating those bags, I wish I would have used some of the liquid culture in the syringe and actually injected it into the spore booster before I had inoculated those bags. That way, I would have actually had more liquid inoculate to inoculate the Tech bag once I inoculated the mellet bag for our Boomer Bin CBG kit. But in any case, I did do something smart. Before I started our last stream, I actually took some of that Pioppino liquid cultures and made extras that have since grown out, and these are actually ready to go into a spore syringe and go ahead and inoculate some more grains. So very fortunate to have these as backups. Just in case our millet grain bag does not colonize, you can see our lovely grouping of grains, uh, corn that I just ran over the past couple days. We are going to inoculate some of these jars with this Pioppino that we just grew out as backups. We're going to make sure that our boomer bin, which I always make sure to keep close. I like looking at it. I want to get this thing as quickly as possible. So, whether it be the Pioppino that comes up next, or I also made, if you watch the behind the scenes footage from last episode, you will have noticed that I took this 2-year old liquid culture. It's chestnut. I took its brother or sister, however you want it, and we went ahead and made the syringe. So I have its sibling in this syringe, and we are also going to see if chestnut mycelium likes corn. So I'm gonna inoculate some of these jars with chestnut, and we're gonna try to grow some of those out. So we're gonna try to grow out some of the chestnut, and ooh, ah, how fortuitous! I actually have a Pioppino syringe that I made, so I don't have to harvest one of these other two jars that I had. We could just save these, put these in storage, so we have them as extra. And yeah, well, just inoculate some of these. Oh, no, no, no. This is pink oyster. Ah, I had them labeled very similarly. So yes, I have not had success with getting pink oyster to colonize corn as of yet. I really only tried once or twice way back when, but I've changed things up a little bit since then. So we're gonna go ahead and try this again, give it another run and see how it takes to the materials that we have now. And just out of curiosity, I want to see how this Mai Tai will work out on some of our corn. I've got several other varieties that we could grow out with these, but let's not complicate things. We got enough to do. So yeah, we will run chestnut, mai tai, and pioppino and pink oysters in these, and all of these are culture jars, fresh culture jars. I'm going to end up making agriculture with, um, be it what we're working with here, what I just showed you, excuse me, or something that I've got in storage. So, got quite a bit to do here, and the biggest part that I have to do is not even on this table. And that is a new batch of rice that I am mixing up for a new batch of cordyceps. Now, speaking of cordyceps, this is where we're going to get in the chill moment. Normally, I would just go ahead and inoculate all these, but we're just going to talk and get to know one another, tell you a little bit about my background. This way you can kind of get to know where I'm coming from, my knowledge level, I guess, and just get a little bit of insight into the the method to my madness. So way back when, I think since about probably last August, last year this time, we started growing cordyceps. They say, Jarvis, so you've had success with pretty much everything that you tried to grow. Well, cordyceps for some reason has eluded me, and the fruiting of it, or getting it to fruit, and it's been perplexing to me, and it's only been recently that I've kind of narrowed down what could potentially be going wrong, and I share this with you because it's good knowledge for anybody that's going to be interested in growing mushrooms. And I am completely freestyling this too, so unfiltered. This is legitimate inside the mind, or the method to my madness, or the mind of a madman, whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. But yeah, way back when I started growing cordyceps, and I'm super stubborn. So the first couple attempts, it was unsuccessful. I was unsuccessful at getting them to colonize, the grains to colonize, and that was partially my, well, it was really all my fault. Um, and not putting in the appropriate ingredients, and just trying to do things in a way that's not appropriate for that strain. But we could chalk a lot of it up to me just being stubborn and trying to do things cheaply. But in any case, eventually I was able to get a recipe down that colonized all the grains fully. So some of the pictures that you've seen posted, everything that you see me growing in rice is 9 times out of 10 going to be cordyceps. So we pretty much got the grain getting colonized down pat. But when I go to fruit it, I can never get them to fruit. Um, and that's never happened to me before with any species of mushrooms. Like once I have grains fully colonized, I've always been able to get them to fruit. Uh, I'm not talking about big prolific flushes or flushes, but once you get these things colonized, mycelium is it's pretty robust, substantial organism. Like it's gonna fruit, even if it has remotely ideal conditions around it. So at some place, at some point on the substrate, you should see at least a couple fruit bodies. And for me not to have any, it's been really perplexing. I didn't pay much attention to it at first, but once I had the appropriate ingredients and the grains were colonized appropriately, it became even stranger because you could see at the 7 day point when they were in fruiting, usually between 7 to 14 days, you'll start to see primordia formation or the beginnings of fruit body formation or primordial formation. And I could see the mycelium changing and starting to knot up, produce hyphae. I don't want to misspeak there, but it is definitely knotting up uh, to the point where you know it's going to produce a mushroom. And then the strangest thing would happen, and this would happen every single time, right about the same time at the fruiting cycle it, the growth would all of a sudden stop. Everything would kind of retard, and the entire cake would just be it become it would all become there's a term in casings for when you make the layered casings or cakes, there's a term called matting. Well, it's when a dense layer of dead mycelial cells forms on the outside layer of the cake and it makes it unreceptive to water. Well, the way that I was fruiting these, like shotgun fruiting chamber style, like just a layer of perlite, and they're in an open container, getting all the humidity they could ever really need, for them to just shrivel up and kind of go dormant the way that they did, or they do every single time. Um, that could be it could be that I was missing the two ingredients that I'm going to put in this new batch just to make sure. So everything that I'm going to be mixing up, and I would have had that batch made right now. But it wouldn't even fit on this table, to be honest with you. There'd be a lot of jars, but um, I'm gonna be doing all of these together. Um, all of the ingredients necessary for the full life cycle of cordyceps are going to be included in this. And I'm at the point where the jars will fully colonize, but the thing that worries me is that there could be a bigger problem, and that could be an issue with the water. Now, we will, and by an issue with water, I mean the pH of the water. That could definitely be a factor causing these things to stall and not produce whatsoever. But even in my mind, just with all my experience growing, even that, like you should see some kind of growth. Like I'm not expecting them to be full, beautiful, mature fruits over every inch of the substrate. But I mean, I do expect at least a couple sticks popping up in the group. Uh, but to have nothing, that is very, very odd. Like I've had casings that let sit on the side, outside, indoors, in places where, in conditions where mushrooms had no business growing, and come back a week later and you have mushrooms everywhere. So for these to be given the care that they need and to actually look and grow like they're going in reverse and to dry out, um, is extremely odd. And again, I'm starting to believe that I may have to take a look at how I hydrate all of my substrates, because all of my substrates, all of my grains, all of my casings, and I'm talking about during the fruiting cycle, because I've had this issue not just with cordyceps, but with the other species. Now, the other species are a little bit more robust, and it's easier for me to get them to fruit, but even then, they should have more prolific flushes than they had. Uh, so I've been keeping an eye on this for quite some time, and it's not a hunch. It's not really a theory at this point. It seriously can only be one or two things. So I am thinking that we are going to have to start pHing our water. A little bit of background about me is when for the first 10 years of me growing mushrooms, I actually did it off of well water. And good well water. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but I mean, there's mineral deposits, and I mean, you have to clean your house, like your kitchen and your bathroom, like at least once a week to avoid, yeah, iron and calcium stains and all that other nonsense. But point being, when I was kind of sharpening my blade and all this, and learning how to grow. Using well water, it's packed with a bunch of minerals and things that are great for mushrooms, and it's also packed with stuff that is not so great for them. So, in the 10 years that I was learning, like the first 10 years, all of the mushrooms that I grew were off of well water. So I got to learn the full gamut of things that can happen and how to kind of sidestep this or mitigate that or avoid this, blah, blah, blah. Um, because the water quality, it would fluctuate throughout the year. Again, always good, always drinkable, but I mean, the, during winter, water levels might be a little low. During spring, obviously, they're going to be high, so water level is going to be a little bit better, cleaner, blah blah blah. But not to get too sidetracked on well water versus any kind of other. But point being is with working with that type of water, you really get to see the entire gamut and work through and problem solve all the different types of things that can pop up in working with mushrooms and keeping them hydrated. Talk about making them from start to finish. So starting with the grain, going through the inoculation, the incubation process, and the fruiting process, the harvesting process, and then doing it all over again if you're going to get multiple flushes. So I learned it step by step until I could do the whole process and get 4 or 5 flushes or get as many flushes I wanted until I got sick of it and just decided to get rid of it. But I've had some of my best grows off of well water. So the place that I'm at now, I'm on city water, and there's nothing wrong with it, and I'm definitely not knocking the city or anything. I mean, water varies everywhere you go, but it's just something to keep in mind that if your water isn't well water, then it's more than likely being treated somewhere. And again, not knocking your treatment facilities or whatnot, but sometimes you gotta be conscious of the pH of your water. pH is kind of the main thing that you really want to look out for because it can secretly behind the scenes kind of hamper your grow if things aren't around the ideal 6, 7-ish for pH for most mushrooms, or at least most of the mushrooms that I grow. Um, but it's kind of one of those silent things that people might have an issue with their water, and they keep having failures when they grow mushrooms, and they can't figure out why. Well, if you keep having failures and you think you're doing everything right, then sometimes maybe you need to look at something that it might not be so obvious, but is like kind of smack you in the face, like, why didn't I think of that before? If you figure it out. So, again, I'm not for certain that that is the thing that is slowing and inhibiting growth in some of my casings and in some of my grain that I'm just fruiting straight, but I am taking every effort to remedy that in this upcoming grow because, for all intents and purposes, I could have and should have had cordyceps well within my inventory a long time ago, like throughout the whole process, like fruiting and harvesting. But now I've stopped being so stubborn, and we're finally gonna see if we can get these things to fully mature. Now I actually pulled out a couple of jars that I've had. These things have literally been in the fruiting chamber for months, and they have not changed from looking like this. You can see excellent colonization. Come to focus. Well, you get the idea. It's fully colonized. That one, another one, same thing. Same. And you can see how solid these things are. And the like I literally just took these out of my fruiting chamber before I started stream. So all of these fully colonized, all of them showed nodding at around 7 to 10 days, and all of them stalled and nothing. Oh, that's funny. I see some trichodermia way back in the middle of that one. I'm kind of surprised that it took that long for that to show up. But yeah, these things have been going for at least 2 months, probably 3 months, strong, just like this, in a fruiting chamber. Um, just for the heck of it, I am to um, take some of these out and crumple. Let me change my audio real quick. Oh man. I didn't even have my mic on that whole time. That actually makes me mad. I was having fun using this mic. But all right, I'm gonna turn this off real quick. We'll roll with that microphone for right now. All right. So yeah, let's go ahead and take some of these out. Oh, well, That's kind of cool. So it's still moist. I'm happy to port that because I was going to be really mad if this was just a solid, dense mass of whatever. But it's still moist. You can still smash it. Yeah, if I squeeze this hard, you could probably get moisture out of it. So it's properly hydrated. It smells like nothing, which is a great thing for rice that's been sitting in a jar in a humid container for 3 months. Amazing what mycelium can do. I'll actually eat some of this to tell you that. It's not that bad, but yeah, interesting. Very perplexing. Oh, that smells so good. Mm. Anybody that knows that fresh mushroom smell, like that the mycelium makes, I just got a huge whiff of it, and man, wow, I'm excited because that means that's healthy mycelium. So the formula that I have to get these to colonize, we're definitely on point. The ingredients that I haven't put in it, I will be putting in this new formula. So we'll get that to colonize. But yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that this is still like this. So I'm stoked about that. That's cool. That is a bright spot. Yeah. Um, not to keep rumbling or rambling about this water thing, but um now going through that, now that I've gone through that, and this is the first time that I've touched, like physically touched anything that's been growing, uh, cordyceps wise in these jars since I first fruited them 3 months ago, 3 months ago. And this is also a side note. It's also a reason why it's good to actually physically touch things. Of course, you want to work. You have to do this work cleanly and have good hygiene and make sure things are as clean as possible. But sometimes it's necessary to like literally get your hands dirty. What I was doing, getting there in the jars to kind of feel them, like what I was telling you, my reaction, it would have taken me a little bit to get that same reaction had I had gloves on. So, being able to really feel how those grains felt and being able to reference in my memory bank over like 20 years of growing mushrooms and doing this and growing grains and I'm stoked to know that we are on the right track for those. So I am hoping to get this monkey off my back and actually get some cordyceps in my inventory, in my archives, should I say, my personal stash. So um we are going to be getting that done as well. I see what we got here. Yeah. We might as well just go ahead and end it here. Oh, no, no, no. There's one thing that I did want to talk about. I want to put an emphasis on me not knocking any particular area or source of water, but I wanted to make a point that since I started growing and or posting my grows, every grow that I've posted, um, I've actually used three different water sources
and each water source gave me different results. So again, my well, it's not a hypothesis. Um, my thoughts on possibly having a pH problem and that potentially being a major factor in slowing down some of my grows um, is something that we're going to be looking into here now in the upcoming weeks because we're obviously going to have a lot going on. All this that I'm going to inoculate, all the cordyceps stuff that you don't see, and all the other stuff that we're gonna be rolling out. So there'll be more batches of this stuff coming real soon. Um, so yeah, we're gonna keep you informed, but the main thing that I want to make sure that we get into is getting that boomer bin filled with something that will really uh, show it off and put it through its paces. I play around with the thing sometimes because it's got a really interesting build. When I first got it, I was like, huh. And the more I play around with it, the more I like it. So, um, most of the containers that I work with for my behind the scenes stuff, they're the larger variety. Having one like that that's compact and like really designed uh, to grow um, in a similar style that I've been used to all my life is awesome. So I really want to do a full grow with it. So whatever ends up colonizing quicker, if our original Pioppino millet grain that we did with the original millet bag the CVG kit came with, if that doesn't colonize, then hopefully we can get uh, the Pioppino to colonize some of the corn that I have in these jars, and um, we will see what wins out in a race between it and cordyceps. Because if cordyceps wins, I very well may um, use the boomer bin for it, and just doing it in kind of a terrarium type of way where we put a layer of perlite on the bottom. It would really be perfect for that. But I want to do I want to do a casing out of it. That would be my ideal thing is to do a casing out of it, and we wouldn't be doing that with cordyceps. But if the Pioppino colonizes, we will do a casing. If the cordyceps colonizes quicker, then we will probably do a shotgun gun type grow, and yeah, that'll give me some flexibility. And we could do things a couple different ways. So yeah, let me uh let me get back to it. We have quite a bit still to make. And then we got to get all these things knocked up. So next episode, hopefully we'll have some fully colonized mycelium and we will be able to make some casings, get some new cakes going. All right.